Thank you, James. Oh, by the way, right here, big fan of the show. Charles Robinson tells me he enjoys the show each and every week. So hopefully that doesn't get him a ton of heat. Love you, Charles. There you are right there. Um, feel bad for Bronson Reed, though. Bronson Reed finally found his niche, his momentum. He was figured in. And this match was a big deal for him, being part of the new bloodline and being one of the top heels. And they had protected him with multiple tsunami splashes and everything. They've really done a creative favor to Bronson Reed up to this point. So I also want to say I got to give WWE credit. I've climbed my cages from time to time. I love these little platforms for people with bad balance like myself. I do know
It's like mat rats. Do you remember mat rats from decades ago?
I do not.
That was an under 18s wrestling thing where they had platforms on the ropes.
I wish I would go to the top rope a lot more if they had that, but then it looks higher than sometimes it looks high when you're up there, so I would probably climb back down. So I know what went wrong with this. We're going to go through and show the splash, the injury, but I know exactly why he broke his ankle. So let's play this. This is a fan cam angle. Here he goes. Boom. All right, so here's the official viewpoint. I love this camera angle, by the way. I don't like how it ended up for Bronson Reed, but a great camera angle. And I'm going to tell you exactly what went wrong right now. This and this. The reason why Bronson Reed broke his ankle is because Punk had to pull Roman Reigns off the table, which means he had to land and then splash the table. He was trying to be safe. Land on his feet, then do the splash to give them time to pull it off. Now, I say what could have went wrong, James, and everybody out there, is Punk pulling Roman Reigns off the table and the table going in this direction. Then Bronson Reed is literally splashing the edge of the table. So it's really not a great spot to set up. In theory, you think it might be good, but man, too much can go wrong. So let's go slow-mo here. There's his ankle right there. I'm going to zoom in. His ankle is right there. This ankle coming down right here is the one that breaks. Oh. Look at it go pointing that way now. So that's his ankle. Back it up again. And you could just see, boom. And he's lucky. Punk and Roman almost didn't get out of there on that. So that's that right there. Now here is the picture-in-picture shot of it. This is live over here. And this is the replay as he comes down. See, you can see Punk. The timing of it is great. He just jumps off and Punk is pulling him. So it's too late. You know, sometimes they pull off, mostly in the girls' matches, and then they dive 3 seconds after that without a camera cut. At least the timing was done well. But here you can see a little bit more. See that his foot was already turned as he's coming down. See, he's trying to brace himself. So when he lands, if he had landed with the toe pointed straight instead of this way, if the toe was pointed that way, he might have blew his knee out still. He might have twisted the ankle or did whatever, but he landed with his foot at a 45-degree angle, or almost a 45-degree angle. And the weird part is, I expected him to grab his ankle, James, and he didn't. He just laid there like he was selling. Maybe he was in shock. But here it is. And even then, when you look at his foot, you know how usually the ankle is completely turned when it breaks? His foot looks like it, unless it was really taped well and it just snapped, usually your foot goes in one direction or the other, and his foot seemingly was fine. So here's the other angle right here. As he goes, you can see Punk grabbing Roman Reigns. I'm going to zoom in right there to see how close we can get. That gives you a little bit of an idea right there. Oh, you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Right there. So once it lands, but see, it's landing already in a position to snap and twist. That's it. That happened right there. I was like, That was kind of like when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, but worse. He kind of had a little bit of his foot was off step from where it usually is when he was scrambling. And there it goes right there. So what went wrong is obviously this is what went wrong. If he was allowed to splash Roman Reigns, it would be fine because he could come down with all his weight. But because he was trying to be safe and protect Roman Reigns and Punk and give them time to pull Roman off the table, that's what he did. He landed feet first and then splashed. See what I mean? His feet touched. And usually it's a half a second, but you still know the guy's taking your full weight with the splash. This was him, his feet and the right ankle especially was taking all 350 pounds of his weight, and he's down. It sucks, dude. And, I hate to see a talent, especially a talent that basically is on the rise, is ready to make real money. And this guy was released and came back, got a new coat of paint on him, was made into a monster. Dare I say it, too much 50-50 booking. He would be even more over if they really took care of him. But in this way, he was on the road to really be figured into the upper mid-card or main event for a while, and this sucks. And you said he's going to miss WrestleMania too.
Yeah, it seems that the latest amount of time that he's going to have to take off is something like 8 months. So WrestleMania is what, 5 months away, 4 months away, 5 months away, something like that. So he's going to
basically SummerSlam So basically SummerSlam if they're going to bring him back in a big way. Yeah. That's what we're looking at. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I do believe, I'm almost 100% sure it's because of the spot of Punk pulling Roman off and not wanting to move the table and him not wanting to be there too soon. In other words, he saw it and he's like feet first and make sure he just barely clears that I almost splashed him. In theory, great spot, smart spot. My guess is Punk and Roman came up with that and they kind of workshopped it a little bit. But man, just one of the true monsters. This dude here, and I know I'm kind of waxing poetic about him, but I was a big fan of his work. The push he had is the push that Braun Strowman should have been able to sustain and has been so much. It's just a lack of fulfilling potential with Braun Strowman, but this guy looked like he was going to fulfill it.
You said something very, very telling at the beginning. Bronson Reed was trying to be safe. Do you remember a few months ago in AEW, who dove off the top of a cage and tried to be safe and also ended up hurting his leg?
Edge.
Exactly. He tried to be safe. He tried to land on his feet first was it Malachi Black he was facing?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and apart from and there's actually weird booking corollary, if I can say that word, between that and this as well, because we'll talk about Edge in a second, but 2 minutes after Bronson Reed does the dive, then Jimmy Uso does a dive and puts Jacob Fatu through a table. The exact same thing 2 minutes later. Edge does the dive, injures himself, no one really remembers it, and then 2 minutes later, Gangrel debuts for AEW, and that's the big spot. So it's almost eerily similar how these two things were put together.
If Bronson Reed, and this is where the only critique I would have of him, your ego, your wrestling ego says, I'm going to do a splash off the top of the cage. I'm 350 pounds. People are going to ooh and ah, and Punk's going to pull Roman off, and I'm going to take myself out. In theory, smart. But how many minutes later is Jimmy Uso going to hit the same exact splash for the finish? So why am I going to, whether he got hurt or not, people are going to forget because that's the replay until Bronson comes back. But then again, if Bronson comes back as a heel, they're not going to show the footage because guess what that footage would do? Provide sympathy for Bronson Reed. Are we going to show a comeback trailer? Are we going to show, the road to recovery or any of this stuff? No. So I would have said, I'm not doing that. If anything, how I would have done it, it would have really made him stand out. Had everybody beat him down after he was trying to beat everybody down, beat him down, have a false panel to the cage and throw him through the cage and take him out. That would have made a moment. Then you know what would have happened there? It would have opened up for interference and made war games like more wild. That's what I see.
Now, this is going to be more of a technical question then. So, as we know, Bronson Reed landed on his feet first, broke his foot. I think it's his foot that was broken. His ankle and foot, collapsed, I'm sure. How would you position your feet for the landing? Would you have your toes pointed out like a ballerina? So essentially, your ankle and your foot is one flat surface, or as much as it can be. Or would you put your foot out to the side, so sort of the instep of your foot's landing on the mat instead? What's the more safe of those two options?
Well, the safest version is to leave Roman Reigns on the table and you hit the splash and your feet never touch. That's it. If he's missing, dare I say it, what I would have done if I were Bronson Reed, not off the top of the cage, but especially since there's a cage spot right after that, top of the cage, I would have done his senton off the top rope like Bubba used to miss it and put himself through the table. Just a back bump.
So, okay, let's forget the top rope cage or anything else. Where should your feet be if you're just doing like even a splash, a standing splash? Where should your feet be?
Well, if you're hitting or missing, I mean, that's where wrestlers start to overthink it and say, I should land on my feet. This is my weakness. A face, a chest, and a stomach bump. People that have that ability to splash. Think about it. Whenever Val Venus misses the money shot, I've wrestled him plenty of times, the splash off the top rope. Eddie Guerrero misses it. What do they usually do? They're pancaked. They don't land on their feet at all. In other words, whether you're hitting or missing, you never land on your feet because you'll end up like Edge. You'll end up like Bronson Reed. And dare I say it, like Eddie Guerrero when he came and he debuted and he overshot the splash and he dislocated his elbow. Remember that injury?
Mm-hmm.
That's because he took it there instead of, listen, we're all adults. It's not ballet. You can knock the wind out of me. I'd rather you knock the wind out of me than break your ankle or foot. That's just the business.
How high's the cage these days, do you think?
Too high for me.
It's over 10 foot, maybe 10 to 12.
No. I would say the apron is a good 3 to 4 feet. 3 feet, let's call it.
But the landing's within the ring, though. Yeah.
No, but on top, you got to figure the ringing because you're on top of the cage. The cage is a good 15 feet, I think.
But that'll be off the floor, though, not from the ring, because, the landing from the ring, sorry, into the ring from the top of the cage. So the fall is going to be, 11 foot?
It's going to be way more. You're standing up there, it's going to feel like 1,000 feet. That's that's the long and the short of it, the high and the low of it. You're out there looking, because when you're up there and you're going to splash, guess what? Now you have to factor in, like when you come from the top rope and you want to splash, RVD was the best at this, so was Eddie, because they could both turn, extend, go short. They had such an eye for their depth perception was awesome. But when you're on top of the cage and you're looking out and you're like, do I fall straight? If I jump out, am I overshooting? Dude, there's way more thought that goes into that. Even when you're doing like Jeff Hardy missing a swanton, Kurt Angle with that moonsault off the top of the cage that he missed. Dude, it's tough. This is what makes pro wrestlers. Here's a spot. Remember the WrestleMania, the COVID WrestleMania with Gronk and Vince had to show him how to fall off the balcony? He was terrified, and rightfully so, because you're looking, and not only that, you're falling backwards. And that was probably a good 10 to 15 feet up. So it's an incredibly dangerous thing. And this is where I'm saying, like I think I brought it up last time, with the Nia Jax chair shot. If you're unsure and you're having butterflies and you're not sure what to do and you're a little nervous about it, you got to cut the spot out. You're always going to be a little bit nervous, but if you're unsure, you're like, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, cut it. Cut it right there.
I've got to disagree with you something. So you were saying the camera angle, and you really love the camera angle, shooting upwards with Bronson Reed coming down. I prefer the this is the most obvious reference, but the Jimmy Snooker hard cam shot. You know what I mean? So he's on top of the cage, but it's the hard cam. But you have him at the top of the cage, zoomed into a point, but you can see the flashbulbs going off in that example rather than the people. But also, the Money in the Bank shot, where two people are fighting on top of the ladder, they're zooming in, but you can see the people reacting, blurred in the background, but you can see that movement behind, and I think that's more cinematic for my tastes, I guess. People used to love WrestleMania 10 with Shawn Michaels when he dove off the ladder, splash to Razor Ramon. And I never loved that shot. Loads of people say, wow, it's like he's diving straight into your living room, but I always loved the zoomed out shot further. That's my personal preference.
Well, they have both. So WWE shoots multiple camera angles for B-roll, for packages, for cinematics. I think they even have a camera, because TNA had the dedicated camera that was working on it off a different frame rate, I think 24 frames a second, if I'm not mistaken. And they were shooting with a different lens, and you knew it was film. They have a dedicated, I'd love to know the backstage production with that. Who's working that? Do they already know what they're trying to capture since they know mostly what's going to happen in the matches? Are they kind of writing a script like you do to say, this is what we have for this, that, like, how do they do it? My favorite thing, you want to talk about my favorite thing, WWE, the most impressive thing, they do a lot of impressive stuff. Remember there was that era at the end of the pay-per-views where they showed the highlighted replay to music at the end of the show? Like, how did you put that together? Like, whoever did that is like, please teach me, as I say. That is an amazing on-the-fly, boom, 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 boom. Get the music, cut it to the music, do that, and have it ready by 11 p.m. Dude, can't be understated.